I love berry treasure, and in this case we're striking gold with homegrown ginger. My goal has been to establish a perennial bed that could be harvested and divided each year. So far I've been cultivating the rhizomes in small pots with the intention of establishing a raised bed in the future. Let's take a closer look at some of the ginger that I've been growing and discuss some of the basic needs for this tasty jewel in this video for how to grow ginger in a container or a raised bed. What's up everyone, this is Scott from New Garden Road, and I'm here to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Encouraging biodiversity through organic practices and restoring habitat is my mission, one garden at a time. This ginger is in its second season. It was planted from some organic store-bought ginger. You can get a pretty clear idea here of how this ginger shoots up and starts to grow. When you look here, you see these little nodes. That's where it's going to shoot out foliage from, just like this one right here. It used to look about like that. And that's what you want to look for when you're picking out some healthy ginger at the grocery store. I think it's interesting to note the growth pattern of this ginger. I planted this rhizome in the middle of the pot back in March. It's pushed out to the perimeter of this container, and that's why I think a raised bed or a container or small pot is going to be great for growing ginger. We've now reached the end of its growing season, and it's time to see how we did. My intention is to harvest a little bit and then replant the rest for next season. You see these two shoots that are coming out. These are actually the flowers. They're not a real ornamental flower, pretty minuscule as it goes. Some ornamental gingers can have a much more beautiful flower, but this culinary version is pretty basic. Nonetheless, I think it's really cool. It smells so good. Like this video if you like it, and subscribe to my channel for more awesome gardening videos. For context, I'm growing in Central Texas Zone 8B. We generally have mild winters and a long growing season. For this reason, I plant my ginger rhizomes directly in a potting mix. Planting depth is about 1 inch. You can see the way this stuff grows. It really just kind of mounds and duplicates itself and runs and kind of does whatever it wants to do. And frequently, I'll see it poking out of the soil level. So about 1 inch, a shallow covering. If you live in a colder climate with a shorter growing season, you may want to consider getting a head start. You can soak your ginger rhizomes in a bath of water and change that out about every week until they start to sprout and grow some foliage. As soon as that ginger sprouts some foliage and begins to grow some roots, you can transfer it to a small pot. I'm really trying to build up my stock so that year over year I can produce more, and I think that I'm going to construct a raised bed and start some there, get it established. Don't forget about the mulch. I'm a big fan of pine straw and pine bark. Some shredded leaves would work just as well, but make sure you cover that bare soil and protect those roots as they start to establish themselves. So I think it's really interesting to note this ginger, the way it grows is kind of vertical, but it also splays out. So think about that. If you're going to be growing it in a mixed planting area, you may want to put it on the north side so it doesn't shade out some of the other plants. I recommend fertilizing regularly throughout the growing season. The main fertilizer that I use is from a liquid concentrate. It's called Neptune's Harvest. That's a liquid fish fertilizer. It's going to be really great for producing some larger rhizomes and some really well-developed roots. That's something that I can mix up in a watering can and drench my small containers about once a week. If you prefer dry granular fertilizer, look for something with a high middle number, such as the Sustain brand 464. Dry fertilizers are typically applied every 4 to 6 weeks. You're going to harvest your ginger in the fall as soon as you see that foliage start to turn a little bit yellow. For me, as soon as we got our first cold front, I noticed that change. At that point, I begin to let those containers dry out a little bit. You don't want them to be too soggy when you get in there and start digging things up. I gotta tell you, it is a lot of fun harvesting ginger, and if you've got it growing in a container like this, it's really easy to just pull up the whole thing. With just about anything like this that has a tangled root system, I find that over the course of about 5 minutes, it really begins to relax, get some air, loosen up, and you can lightly tease it. If you're just gentle and careful, you preserve those rhizomes in their entirety and it'll start to come apart for you. Eventually you're gonna have to break off a few pieces, but if you're just patient, it's gonna show you the way. You can see how easy it is to divide this plant. I mean, this was one big clump when I planted it in March, and now I'm gonna have several. Look at that, homegrown ginger. And once you've harvested your ginger, after you clean it thoroughly, you can bring it directly into the kitchen. Otherwise, you can consider replanting some more for next year. Great, that's gonna be fun. What's up, everybody? That's wonderful. Now check out some of these other awesome gardening videos on my channel, like this one on 7 tips for growing citrus trees in containers. You can grow your own food, keep it organic.